Good morning, good morning. We are calling this meeting to order for the Privileges and Elections Committee. If the clerk will please open the roll for us to take attendance. And all members mark their presence. We do have a quorum, and so we're going to go on and get started. We will start with our first subcommittee report from Delegate Glass. Chairwoman Glass.
Gratitude, Madam Chair. The Subcommittee on Election Administration has a report from February 2nd. So the first bill was House Bill 26, patroned by Delegate Reed. This bill adds the acceptance forms of ID for the purposes of voting. The subcommittee recommends reporting with a vote of 7-1. I so move.
Second.
The motion has been made to report House Bill 26 and properly second. Is there any question? Are there any questions or comments from the subcommittee? From the committee, sorry. Get it together. All right, if the clerk will please open the roll and members cast your votes. And so House Bill 26 reports on a vote of 14-3. Chairwoman Glass.
All right, House Bill 43, patroned by Delegate Thomas. That's not the right one. My apologies, Madam Chair. House Bill 69, patroned by Delegate Bulova. This bill requires local governing bodies or elected school boards to make interim appointments and hold public meetings 7 days prior, as well as make available resumes and other materials available for the public. The subcommittee recommends reporting on a 6-1, and I so move.
Great transparency bill. So House Bill 69 has been moved to be reported, and it's been properly seconded. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, if the clerk will please open the roll and members cast your votes. And that bill is reported on a vote of 16-1. Madam Chair.
Gratitude, Madam Chair. House Bill 176, patroned by Delegate Gardner. This bill provides that any candidate for a constitutional officer who is nominated by a political party or primary election shall be identified by name of the political party. The subcommittee recommends reporting with the substitute of 5-2. The substitute incorporates House Bill 413, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded. 265.
No, 265. Did she say so?
One.
That was a motion to report.
This should have been House Bill 176.
Let's see. Okay, for House Bill 176, can I entertain a motion for that bill to go by for the day?
So moved. Second.
Hearing a motion to go by for the day and a second, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that bill will go by for the day. Next bill.
Right. The next bill is House Bill 265. 265, patroned by Delegate Simon. This bill requires the signature collected on a petition for removal of certain public officers to be collected within 90 days of the first signature being collected, and provides that no signatures gathered after such period should count towards the required number. The subcommittee recommends reporting of a vote of 8-0. And I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 265. Any questions or comments from the committee? All right, if the clerk will please open the rolls and members cast your votes. And that bill is reported on a vote of 19-0. So House Bill 1003.
House Bill 1003, patroned by Delegate Anthony, requires notice of any adopted change in an election district, precinct, or polling place to be mailed to all registered voters, subject to change at least 30 days prior to the next election. Currently, such notice must be mailed within 15 days. The subcommittee recommends reporting 8-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 1003. Any questions from the committee? And that was with amendment?
Yep, substitutes for House Bill 1003.
I believe that was a line amendment, and I heard that as the motion. Was that properly seconded? Second. Thank you. So to report House Bill 1003 with amendment, any questions or comments from the committee? All right, Madam Clerk, please open the rolls. The committee will go at ease just for one moment. I have everybody on the same page. I'm going to ask the clerk to destroy the roll. And so, Madam Chair has explained House Bill 1003, and that proper motion would be to report. My apologies. And so if the clerk would please open the roll for House Bill 1003 with the motion to report that has been seconded, and if members will cast your votes. And that reports on a vote of 20-0. Madam Chair?
Next on the docket, Madam Chair, we have House Bill 1172, patroned by Delegate Sickles, which requires that absentee voting in person be available in the office of the General Registrar and any voter satellite office that the governing body of any county or city chooses to establish. Localities with a population of over 50,000 or more are required to establish at least one voter satellite office to be in operation for the duration of the period in which the absentee voting in person is available. The subcommittee recommends incorporating House Bill 1408, and a voice vote is needed.
And so I heard the motion to incorporate House Bill 1172 into House Bill 1408. And
Yes.
It was properly seconded,
Yes.
and that's a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So House Bill 1172 is now incorporated into House Bill 1408.
I move to report.
With substitute?
With the substitute, Madam Chair.
So it's been moved and properly seconded to report with substitute House Bill 1408. Any questions from the committee? It's just substitute.
I'm sorry, my board is freaking out. Give me a moment.
It's gonna be okay.
And before we do that, can I get a motion on the substitute?
So moved, Madam Chair.
So the substitute has been moved and properly seconded and is now properly before us. And so now the motion, can we restate the motion to report with substitute House Bill 1408?
Madam Chair, I move to report with the substitute, House Bill. Se-
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 1408 with substitute. We'll give the clerk one moment. Lots of moving parts for democracy. Thank you for your patience. No problem. Okay, the committee will go at ease for one moment. Thank you. For your patience, we have the bill in front of us. And so that was a motion to report with substitute, House Bill 1408, that was properly seconded. It is now before us. If the clerk will please open the rolls. And members cast your votes. And that recommends to be reported. 11 to 9. He didn't vote on his own bill? 11 to 9. And so next up, we have House Bill 441, and I will entertain a motion to incorporate House Bill 43 and 1222 into House Bill 441.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded to incorporate House Bill 43 and House Bill 1222 into House Bill 441. That is a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And so now we have House Bill 441 in front of us.
Gratitude, Madam Chair. House Bill 441, petitioned by Delegate Bennett Parker. This bill provides that any qualified voter who is a person with a disability shall be eligible for assistance outside the polling place and make a technical amendment for consistency and directs the Department of Elections to incorporate guidance documents for election officials that the processes and procedures for the voting outside the polling place, including best practices for providing assistance for voters with disabilities. The committee recommends reporting with the substitute 8-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded that House Bill 441 with substitute be reported. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the rolls and members cast your votes. And that is recommended to be reported on a vote of 20-0. And we now have House Bill 939 in front of us.
Okay, gratitude, Madam Chair. House Bill 939, patroned by Delegate Shin, prohibits any person with certain exceptions from knowingly possessing a firearm within 100 feet of the entrance of a polling place. The building used by the local electoral board to ascertain election results, or the building used to conduct a recount of an election. The subcommittee recommends reporting with a substitute of 5-3. The substitute adds language to keep consistency in the code and added certain places in those sections that no loudspeakers unless at a school, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 939 with substitute. Are there any questions from the committee? Delegate Green.
Thank you. Is there a carve out for concealed carry holders in this with the substitution?
Madam Chair, there is no carve out for concealed carry holders. However, we were notified in committee that there is no firearms are authorized in a polling place already. So it's already the standard that concealed carries are not allowed within the polling place.
And there was also significant conversation about needing for there to be some clarity for those that were coming onto the property to make sure that if you had a firearm in your car, that was not going to prevent you from voting. And so we did take a look at it, and with the patron's permission, I did request that some amendments be drawn up to be able to make it clear that that was intended for on the person. So we're going to see if we can send out a notification to Delegate Shin. And so if I could entertain a motion for that bill to go by temporarily.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded for House Bill 939 to go by temporarily. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? And so that bill will go by temporarily, and then we'll get Delegate Shin in front of us so we can have that conversation. So with that, just in case there are no questions, let's go on to House Bill 940. And then if there are any further questions, she'll be here for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 940, patroned by Delegate Shin. This requires notice of change of the location of a polling polling place to be posted at the location last used for such polling place on the day of the first primary election and the first general election conducted in a new polling location. This notice is required to include information for voters to find the correct polling place. The subcommittee recommends reporting with amendments 8-0. The amendments add a how to find the location, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 940 with amendment. And Delegate Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question about the bill. Would this require a locality to post something on private property if they had previously used private property as a polling location?
Madam Attorney?
If some private property had been used for a polling place, then yes, it would be required to have some sort of posting at that particular place. I'm not sure how frequently polling places are held on private property, though.
Madam Chair, if I may comment.
Delegate Scott?
For the past 3 years, Spotsylvania has rented private property for their polling location in 2 different shopping centers. And so after the first 2 years, the landlord said no more, never come back. And then after just 1 year, the landlord said no more, never come back. And so I'm not sure how friendly these locations would be to continue to cooperate after they've decided that they didn't want to facilitate that option for the community anymore. So if that's a requirement on private businesses, I don't know how I can support the bill.
Any other comments or questions? It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 940 with amendment. Madam Clerk, please open the rolls. And that bill is recommended to be reported with amendment on a vote of 14-6. And now House Bill 942.
Yes, Madam Chair, House Bill 942, again by Delegate Shin, patroned by Delegate Shin. This bill adds to the list of protected voters any person serving as a member of the local electoral board, general registrar, a duty registrar or employee in the office of the general registrar, or an officer of the election to have post box addresses. The subcommittee recommends reporting on a vote to 8-0.
Chair, or is that a different bill?
I'm sorry, 942?
Oh, fine, 942. My apologies, Madam Chair. I was reading 943. Going back, my apologies. House Bill 942, patroned by Delegate Shin. This bill prohibits the placement of a polling place or voter satellite office within a police station, sheriff's office, but permits placement in a public building that houses multiple offices that include police stations or sheriff's office. This bill includes a technical amendment to be consolidated related to the provisions of the law and has an amendment in the nature of the substitute.
Yes, and so that substitute narrowed the focus of the bill, and so it was just the part about the police station or sheriff's office, correct? Say yes.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yep, awesome.
And the removal of tribal office.
Yes, so I see Delegate Milday.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may ask the reasoning behind this, I'm trying to figure out what they're getting at with this.
Yes, so we had conversation about current tensions between law enforcement and some communities, and that playing into potential voter suppression based on the location of the polling precinct, and that's why this bill was brought forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions or comments from the subcommittee?
Okay. Subcommittee recommends reporting with substitute on a vote of 7-1, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report 942 with substitute. Madam Clerk, please open the rolls and members cast your vote. And that bill is reported with substitute on a vote of 12-8. 943.
Now 943. Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 943, patroned by Delegate Shin. This adds to the list of protected voters any person serving as a member of the local electoral board, a general registrar, a duty registrar, or employee in an office of the general registrar or an officer of elections to have post office box addresses. The subcommittee recommends reporting on a vote of 8-0.
And that's your motion?
And I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 943. Any questions from the committee? If Madam Clerk will please open the rolls and members cast your votes. And that passes on a vote of 21-0. And 1177.
House Bill 1177, patroned by Delegate Sickles, requires the Commissioner of Elections to apply for, enter into, and maintain membership in the Commonwealth in the Electronic Registration Information Center, or ERIC. Subcommittee recommends reporting on a vote of 5-2, and I so move.
And I am so sorry. We have, since subcommittee received a speaker's letter, if that does get reported, that would be a report and referred to the Committee on Appropriations.
I move to the subcommittee recommends report and refer to the Committee on Appropriations, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly. It's been moved and properly seconded for House Bill 1177 to be reported and referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Any questions from the committee? Madam Clerk, please open the rolls. And that bill will be reported and referred to the Committee on Appropriations on a vote of 12-9. That is, we went back in the day. In the absence, I think Delegate Shin should be on her way, so we'll come back to that one. So for now, does that complete your subcommittee report?
I believe that completes my subcommittee report, Madam Chair.
Awesome. So we will turn to Chair Cole for the subcommittee report on constitutional amendments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have two bills that reported out of the Constitutional Amendment Subcommittee, starting with HJ 45 by Delegate Tran. This is a constitutional amendment relating to property tax exemption for certain surviving spouses, and this is the second reference. Expands the current tax exemption for real property available to the surviving spouses of soldiers killed in action to the surviving spouses of soldiers who died in the line of duty with a line of duty determination from the U.S. Department of Defense. The subcommittee recommends reporting 8-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Joint Resolution 45. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, if the clerk will please open the rolls and members cast your votes. And that passes on a vote of 21-0. Chair Cole, we did get a letter rescinding a previous letter from the Speaker, and so if we were to vote out House Bill 558, that proper motion would be just to report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. HB 558 from Delegate Hernandez is the enacting language for the constitutional amendment, provides for a referendum at the November 5th, 2024 election to approve or reject an amendment to the Constitution of Virginia that would expand the real property tax exemption that is currently available to the surviving spouses of soldiers killed in action to be available to the surviving spouses of soldiers who died in the line of duty with a line of duty determination from the U.S. Department of Defense. The subcommittee recommends reporting 8-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 558.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Delegate Bloxham.
a question on this. I understand there's no physical impact to the state, but was it any discussion on the physical impact to the locality?
Delegate Chair Cole, was that part of the discussion?
That was not discussed, Madam Chair.
Question, Madam Chair. So is there any way to figure out the fisc to a locality before we pass this?
Madam Attorney?
Madam Chair, I have in my notes from the discussion that from the testimony that was provided, that this would add approximately 100 people to the group that would be qualified for this. It's 100 people across the entire Commonwealth, with like 1 to 2 people estimated per locality. And I would also say that this is for the general law, or the General Assembly, to pass the general law, and there could be restrictions and conditions prescribed. So if there was some concern about.
Thank you, Council.
Delegate Glass?
Gratitude, Madam Chair, and I wanted to speak to the bill of my locality is going to be the largest locality impacted by this, and we have a total of 24 people that this would affect. So I would urge all of the delegates, if you want to see where this would impact your locality, there is some data that the folks at DVS can give us to know exactly how your locality would be impacted.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If Madam Clerk will please open the roll. And members cast your vote. House Bill 558 passes on a vote of 21-0. And so now, thank you, Chair Cole. We will move to Chair Krisak for the subcommittee report on campaign finance.
Thank you, Chairwoman Price. Members of the committee, the following bills are reported out of the Campaign Finance Subcommittee, and if it's the will of the committee, I'll report them now. Chair, HB 111 from Delegate Sullivan provides that an elector who is selected by the state convention of any political party and who, after the election, refuses to present a ballot, presents an unmarked ballot, or presents a ballot marked in violation of his oath stating that he would, if elected, cast his ballot for the candidates for president and vice president nominated by the party that selected the elector, whereas the party may direct in the event of the death, withdrawal, or disqualification of the party nominee is deemed to vacate the office of elector. The bill provides that the other electors present shall immediately fill such vacancy in the same manner as a vacancy due to an elector's death or failure or inability to attend. The bill applies the same provisions to electors who are named in a petition of qualified voters not constituting a political party. The subcommittee recommended reporting unanimously, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 111. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, if the clerk will please open the rolls and members cast your votes. And that bill passes on a vote of 21-0. Chair Krisak?
Thank you. We have next we have Delegate Bloxham's House Bill 1346. I'd like to move the committee amendment.
Second.
The committee amendment has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is properly in front of us. Delegate Krisak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As amended, this bill allows candidates for Director of Soil and Water Conservation Districts to seek an exemption from the requirement that they designate a separate campaign account, provided that they certify that they have not and will not contribute any money to their campaign or expend any money in the course of the campaign. The subcommittee recommended reporting by a vote of 6-2. I so move.
Second, as amended.
It's been moved and properly seconded that House Bill 1346 as amended be reported. Are there any questions or comments on the bill? Seeing none, if the clerk will please open the roll and members cast your vote. And that bill is recommended to be reported on a vote of 18-3 with amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have HB 907 from Delegate Kent, which would require that electronically cast ballots be accompanied by a printed receipt for each voter that shows the date and time the voter's ballot was cast, the voter's number corresponding to the order in which ballots were cast, and a list of all the voters' selections on the ballot. The subcommittee recommended continuing to 2025, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded that House Bill 907 be carried over under Rule to 2025 under Rule 22. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That bill has been continued.
Finally, Madam Chair, Delegate Coles, House Bill 1314, which seeks to prohibit any person from printing or circulating unofficial sample ballots unless they are not printed on white paper, including the word sample ballot, indicate the name of the sponsor, and include an authorization statement. The committee recommended this bill be continued to 2025, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to carry over House Bill 1314 to 2025. According to Rule 22, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That bill has been carried over. And so now we have the bills that have not been heard by a subcommittee that will come straight to full committee. And I see Delegate Hope with House Bill 796.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Please tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will appreciate the committee hearing the bill. I was approached by one of my constituents that is vision impaired and was telling me about all these different states that have been forced by the courts to, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, to give them the opportunity to vote electronically. And so I asked that the bill be drafted for that narrow subset of people to do that. A number of states have started to do that. Indiana, West Virginia, Maryland, and North Carolina all sued under the ADA to request that they get access to that, because the whole issue here is civil rights and privacy. When you vote, you can all vote and go to the booth and vote with privacy, confidentially. No one can see your ballot. But when you're someone that's vision impaired, you can't do that. You have to have, if someone sends you the ballot, the paper ballot, you can't see it, and you need some assistance, and you can't do it by yourself. What this does, it would allow, if you allow them to do it electronically, they have technology that will allow them to vote in the privacy of their own home and send it in. As I did more research on this, I noticed that the states that were ordered by the court under the ADA to give access to vision impaired had it already for military and overseas. And there are a number of states that do that. In fact, there's a federal law called the Uniform and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, which allows states the opportunity to do that. And many states already do allow this for overseas in military. And so what I decided to do was change the bill to include military and overseas and people who are visually impaired. I think that this is an equity and voting rights issue. Again, a number of states do allow it. I think that there are some, from what I hear from criticism from the other side, is that there are some security issues. But there are a number of states, Republican, Democrat, red, blue states, that allow this already. And I think we should bring it to Virginia. And so that's the bill that's before you. Again, my intentions initially was just for visually impaired. But I think that the best way to go is to take a look at this more broadly and include military and overseas. So the technology exists. We just want to bring it to Virginia.
Delegate Bloxham. Thank you, Delegate Bloxham.
No, ma'am, I was having trouble getting it up on the computer. I had to go through. I had to pull it up. Thank you.
I understand. Are there any further questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, is there anyone here to testify in support of the bill? Anyone in the room to testify in opposition? Okay, so we will go online. Oh, I'm sorry. If you can, come on up.
Cindy DeFranco with Principal Advantage representing verified voting. You should have online CJ Coles with verified voting who is going to testify.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the online testimony. And if we could set our clock at 7 minutes. And we'll have 7 minutes total for the testimony. First going to person last name Freechild.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Akine Freechild with the nonpartisan nonprofit Public Citizen. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of our 16,000 plus supporters in Virginia in opposition to the internet ballot return portion of this bill and in support of the other accessibility measures in the bill. We're committed to ensuring voting access for all voters. We support voters with disabilities and voters who are overseas specifically being able to request their ballot online and receive it electronically. today. We know that many voters with print disabilities are best able to mark a ballot with their own assistive tech. They deserve streamlined requests for voter assistance and other thoughtful provisions of this bill. However, a ballot is marked electronically. It should not be submitted over the internet. Internet voting is unsecurable. This is a consensus position within the computer science community. The ballot should be printed and ideally verified by the voter before being submitted via a poll worker, a scanner, mail, Dropbox to ensure that that vote will be private and counted as cast. We respectfully request consideration of other accessible and secure voting options that produce a verified paper ballot instead of internet ballot return. For example, programs that bring accessible voting equipment, printers, or absentee ballots to in-Commonwealth voters upon request, as they do in parts of California, Washington, and Oregon. All voters who vote by mail rely on election workers to collect, process, and count their votes. These programs put in-state voters on more equal footing with other voters instead of segregating in-state military and disabled voters into an unreliable system. Internet ballot return can grant access, and it can also take it away. There have been 2 recent catastrophic crashes that resulted in election reruns because no recount was possible. Those crashes not only took away the right to vote of thousands, they called into question who won and who lost. We cannot afford that kind of instability. In 2022, the state that includes Sydney, Australia, had to rerun an election because their limited online voting system crashed. More than 30,000 people with disabilities or distant from a polling location called the iVote helpline, trying to figure out how to vote. All they got was a voicemail saying something like, "We're sorry for the inconvenience. We are working to get the problem resolved as soon as possible." The state had to sue the winning candidates to force them to run again, requiring new fundraising campaigns, new mail-in ballots resent, entire new election for all voters, including the millions who
Ms.
took off
Freechild?
of work.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to let you know that was 7 minutes total for the against side.
Okay, there was also a crash last year. I'm almost done. A crash last year in Ecuador that also forced a rerun for all overseas voters, costing $2 million, and things have not been going well there since. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Joan Port.
Thank you. This is Joan Port, leader of Women Voters of Virginia, and unfortunately, we must also oppose this bill basically because of the dangerous insecurity of the electronic ballot return. We are sensitive to the issues of people with disabilities, of course, but we just don't have the technology right now. And Virginia sends out ballots electronically and provides 45 days for early voting. There is no current internet voting system that is secure from attack. Someday, hopefully, we will have that. We don't have it now. And unfortunately, we must oppose this bill. Thank you for your time.
And CJ Coles.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'll keep it brief. My name is CJ Coles. I represent Verified Voting. We're a national nonpartisan nonprofit organization founded by computer scientists. And we speak directly to security issues within technology that's used in elections. So with that said, we oppose House Bill 796 as currently written. We appreciate Delegate Hope's long history of caring for people who face difficulties with many tasks that many of us don't, think twice about. However, I heard in Delegate Hope's opening remarks that the technology is available, that it just wants to be brought to Virginia. Actually, the opposite is true. The national academies have said, quote, "No known technology guarantees the secrecy, security, and verifiability of a marked ballot transmitted over the internet," end quote. CISA, the EAC, FBI, and NIST issued a joint memo a few years ago that categorized any form of electronic ballot return as high risk, and these are the 4 agencies that are charged with protecting our election infrastructure. We heard from FBI Director Wray 2 days ago, warning a congressional committee that the Chinese hackers are preparing to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm in the United States. And what better way to do that than to follow the Russian playbook from 2016 and hack our election infrastructure? So I will leave it there. The security of this issue is too great to ignore. I do agree we need to find solutions to help certain members of our voting population that face real barriers to the ballot box. And we need to find solutions that are both accessible and secure.
Thank you. Susanna Goodman.
Hi, I'm Susanna Goodman. I'm with Common Cause, and our Common Cause Virginia office boasts 20,000 members. I'm here on behalf of a voting rights coalition that works hard to reduce barriers to access, and that includes the Brennan Center for Justice, Protect Democracy, Free Speech for People, and other groups. And we work very hard to reduce barriers to access, but this bill would absolutely endanger the privacy and secrecy and ability to have their votes recorded as cast. 2016 was not that long ago, and our elections are a target. And that is why 4 government agencies have warned against internet voting. For the record, Virginia is not at risk of litigation to compel internet voting because it has already settled a case which allows electronic ballot delivery and marketing for voters who need it. And the overseas and military voters already under federal law are allowed to receive electronic ballots and be able to mark them. It's a question of mailing them back. So
Ms. Goodman, thank you. I'm sorry, we are out of time here. And there was one more, Ms. I think Lindsay, if you could state your name, who you're with, and your position on the bill.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Lindsay Zaya. I'm with Virginia Institute Action, and for the reasons before stated, we oppose HB 796. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, yeah, okay.
Chair, all my people oppose this bill, but I can't understand, when we talk about the insecurity of these electronic submissions, when so many states are using it and even one of the courts in Maryland where they ordered through the ADA said that people with visually impaired deserve equal access to the ballot box. The court found that this method was secure. But if I was sitting in your seats, I wouldn't approve this bill right now either, given the testimony. And so, because I think anyway, I won't get into that, but I would ask that this bill be continued until 2025, and maybe the chair could send a letter to elect, and maybe we could put together a work group. Because I hear what people are saying in terms of security, but so many states are doing this. And so if there's just all this insecurity that's going on, well, we should let them know that they're operating their elections in an insecure manner. And I just don't see it, but that would be my recommendation, Madam Chair.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a motion at the proper time.
Delegate Cole.
I move that we pass by HB 796 on Rule 22 to 2025.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded for us to, I think that was carry over to 2025 based on Rule 22. Are there any other motions?
Substitute motion.
Delegate Krisak.
I move to table the bill.
It's been moved and properly seconded to table House Bill 796. That is a superior motion and non-debatable. Madam Clerk, please open the rolls. And that motion passes to table House Bill 796 on a vote of 20-1. Thank you, Delegate Hope.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the committee's time.
I think I saw Delegate Simon. I'm so sorry. Yes, so we had already started Delegate Shin's bill and it went by temporarily. So I will turn the committee's attention to House Bill 939. And so Delegate Shin, we rolled through your other bills pretty quickly, but there was a question which reminded me about conversation that we had in subcommittee about your bill. And it was with question, so this was no firearms within 100 feet. We had questions about, does that include people that were parked in order to vote? And did it cover their car? And wanted to see if you had any answer to that.
Thank you, Delegate Price. I actually believe Council has prepared amendments.
Madam Attorney?
Madam Chair, Delegate Shen, so the committee line amendments are posted on LIS. These would be drawn to the substitute that was adopted by the subcommittee. And essentially everywhere where we say that it's unlawful for someone to knowingly possess a firearm within a certain distance, it will then read knowingly carry on or about his person. I'm happy to read all the line numbers out loud if that would.
Is LIS up for anyone else?
I got an email from my staff saying that LIS is down.
Oh, that is fun. Delegate Cherry.
Yes, ma'am. I had a question of the patron, if it's appropriate.
Yes, Delegate Cherry.
Delegate, I guess my question would be, does this only apply to people that are voting, i.e., in my locality, City Hall is where voting takes place, and people walking down the sidewalk having a concealed carry on their person, could they potentially be charged with a crime because they're walking down a sidewalk? Or does this only apply to people that are going to vote and vote only? And how do we distinguish that in this code?
Your concern came up, or sorry, Madam Chair, I would say that the delegate's concern came up during the subcommittee conversation as well. And so the clarification that the council has prepared is to sort of ensure that the person going in to vote is the one who is knowingly carrying on their person. And so I don't think the intent of the bill is to capture folks who are walking by on the sidewalk.
Any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion on the line amendment? It's been moved and properly seconded to accept the amendment on House Bill 939. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? So that now, a line amendment is now properly in front of us. Any other comments or questions from the committee? And so the proper motion for this would now be to report with substitute as amended. And I heard that a motion to report 939 with substitute as amended. Delegate Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just got a question about how this would apply to another piece of legislation that was not passed by the Firearms Subcommittee. It was House Bill 289 that would provide a exemption to prohibiting somebody from storing a firearm in their vehicle in a parking lot on private or public property, and that was defeated this year. So the question is, how would this apply if now all of a sudden there is a prohibition on storing a firearm in a parking lot?
I would say to the gentleman that we do not need to consider legislation that did not pass in front of a current committee.
Madam Chair, if I may ask an additional question, clarifying question.
Either that or you can speak to the bill.
Okay. My concern is, speaking to the bill, Madam Chair, my concern is that there was a piece of legislation that was submitted that would make it so that there would be no prohibition on storing a firearm in your vehicle properly secured in a parking lot. And with that bill not passing this year, that leaves it open that there could be a prohibition on storing a firearm in your vehicle securely. And then that would just be expanding the prohibition and further restricting voter access. So I can't support the bill.
Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? All right, if Madam Clerk will please open the rolls. And that passes on a vote of 12 to 10.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Simon, thank you for being so patient this morning. And we will turn our attention to House Bill 1045.
Thank you, Delegate Price. I'm going to sort of keep this brief. I don't know if folks are signed up to speak to this bill, but I'll tell you briefly what the bill is, and then suggest that given that it's got big fiscal implications and we need to go to the appropriations staff eventually, and then we're in the first year of a biennium, that maybe this would be a better one to look at more closely in the second biennium. Just a little telegraphing of like the motion I might like to see. But let me just briefly describe this. This creates a public financing, a public campaigns program. This is a little more refined than the democracy vouchers bill that Delegate Gilbert wanted to see me defend on the floor a few years ago. This one would set up a fund that would be paid for by a tax checkoff. So if you wanted to do part of your tax refund or pay an additional tax voluntarily into the fund, you could do that. That's how we pay for it. To qualify to participate in the public financing program as a candidate, you first have to show that you're a credible candidate by raising a certain minimum number of small dollar contributions yourself. The amount you have to raise depends on what seat you're running for. So governor would have to raise a whole bunch of small dollar donations to show they're a credible candidate for statewide office. Delegates would have to just raise less because you got to think about a smaller area that they're trying to raise from. But if you could show that you're a serious candidate by raising a bunch of small dollar contributions yourself, you'd qualify to participate in this public financing program. The goal is to try and, we saw during this last election cycle, record amounts of money spent on these races and people raising money by the hundreds, thousands, and the tens of thousands at a time from single individual donors. And it makes it so that somebody who just wants to run a real grassroots campaign and rely on small dollar donors just can't compete. And so this bill would try and level the playing field a little bit for those folks so that you have an opportunity to say, hey, I want to get most of my money from small dollar donors. I don't want to be beholden to a single large donor. And so this would sort of balance the scales and allow somebody to run a campaign like that and create incentives for folks to run small campaigns. And with that, I'll stop because I think there are probably some folks signed up to speak that want to talk more about this. Maybe, I don't know, but probably. And so maybe they can articulate it better than I can. I'm sure they can articulate it better than I can.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Simon. Before we go to public testimony, I do have Delegate Bloxham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two questions that I have about the bill, because it's to me, it gets back to what bills I've had in the past that would limit donations from your district. Would this, how does crowdsourcing count to your donations?
So you could, so qualifying contributions would have to, they couldn't be anonymous. So like these sort of crowdsource things where people get together and pool it, and then those wouldn't count. So they have to be, the identity of the donor has to be disclosed for it to be a qualifying contribution. It has to be at least $5. I think not more than $250. So this really, so you couldn't really crowdsource to qualify. You'd have to go out and get individual donors who are willing to put their names to it to contribute to your campaign. Does that answer the question?
Well, follow-up question.
Delegate Bloxham.
If I'm not mistaken, if I donate to a group and then they distribute the money to the candidates, if I live in California, their names would still be listed on elect or on comment, or did I not understand that correctly?
So in other words, if somebody uses like a platform, so that's a little different than what I consider crowdsourcing. But yeah, so somebody via Act Blue, right, which is the platform we use, makes a contribution. If that's reported properly, we report the amount of the contribution from the person using their name and address. And if it's in California, if it's in Virginia, if it's in Accomack County, we report it that way.
All right. Follow-up question, Madam Chair.
Delegate Bloxham.
So I actually kind of like this. I don't like money from out of state, though. I would love to see us limit the money to our district. We couldn't raise more money than what you can get in your own district. If you can't get enough money to run for office in your district, maybe you shouldn't represent that district. And that's always been my stance. So just in the discussion coming on from this next year, if we could at least think about that thought.
I'd be happy to think about that. And I would notice that one of the things we did to sort of accommodate that idea is that the qualifying contribution amounts are smaller for people that come from districts where the average median income is below the average median that is lower, right? So if you come from a place where there's not a lot of money to be raised, we actually lower your threshold, which seems to me to have in mind, right, the idea that a lot of these contributions would come from within the district. So happy to consider that as it goes forward. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments from the committee? Okay, anyone in the room here to testify in support of the bill? Anyone here in the room in opposition? Okay, we will turn to online. In support, we have Joan Port.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joan Port, President, League of Women Voters of Virginia. The League supports this bill and the establishment of the new voluntary public campaigns program, along with mandatory reporting on the program, by providing matching funds for small dollar contributions and requiring participating candidates to abide by contribution limits and agree to participate in public debates. The bill provides qualified individuals who don't have deep pockets or friends with deep pockets more incentive to run for elected office and increases the electorate's opportunity to evaluate these candidates on their merits and not just paid advertisement. We also support the mechanism for funding the program. Instead of using scarce taxpayer dollars, the new public campaigns program would be financed through an optional checkoff on the Virginia taxpayer income tax filings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, did the patron want the final word?
No, again, I agree that there's, like I said, it's a new concept. There's a lot that's new here. I understand that it's a lot to take on during this budget year and a biennium and so forth. So happy to have it carried over to 2020. No? All right.
I see Delegate Milday.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'd love you guys to pass it. That'd be great.
Delegate Milday?
Yes, Madam Chair. Tell me how you get around when we have contributions of under $100 or less. We don't report the names of the contributors. How does that private information become public using this?
Yeah. So again, if you wanted to qualify for a qualifying contribution, you would have to report the name. So yeah, currently you don't have to report the names of donors that are under $100, but yeah, to be a qualifying donation, you'd have to report the name.
Okay, and what if
Did you have a follow-up?
Madam Chair, thank
Delegate
you. I'm sorry.
Milday?
Follow-up. If you haven't raised, if the public campaign hasn't raised enough money, but this program started, working, how would you distribute the money if you didn't have enough to actually fund per your schedule of 12% or $12 on 50 or $8 on 100? What do you do if you don't have the money in the campaign fund and in the state's campaign fund?
There's probably something in the bill that answers that question. I don't know what happens exactly when the money runs out. Obviously, we can't distribute it, so I don't. I'm sure it's a good question. I just don't have it right off the top of my head.
All right, thank you.
Delegate Sickles?
Madam Chair, I would like to move to report this bill and refer to appropriations.
Second. Okay, hearing a motion to report and refer House Bill 1045 to appropriations. Any discussion? All right, if Madam Clerk will please open the roll and members cast your vote. And that bill passes and is referred to appropriations on a vote of 12 to 10. Thank you, Chair Simon.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
O'Quinn, you ready? No, you can do it. All right, so we'll turn to some bills that we have remaining with committee members, and we will turn to Delegate O'Quinn. Let's start with House Bill 742.
All right, Madam Chair, I have House Bill 742, which essentially changes how the Commissioner of Elections is appointed. So as you all know right now, it's one of the positions that I think there are maybe 7 or 8 positions enumerated in the code that the governor does not appoint. Some other entity appoints that. This would add the Commissioner of Elections to that list, and essentially what it would seek to do is create independence from the governor's office, but also keep the proportional representation that each political party has, i.e. if the governor is of your party, then you would have more members on the Board of Elections. And so what it does is to take the number of members on the Board of Elections from 5 to 7. So the governor's party would have 4. The opposite party would have 3. Right now, you submit 3 recommendations for each political party. It would increase those recommendations to 5. And it takes 5 of 7 of the board members to elect the new elections commissioner. And it also clarifies, should there be a vacancy, that the director of operations at elect would serve as the interim commissioner. Right now, there is no provision for that. So it's kind of, if there is a vacancy, there's basically an ad hoc situation. We make the effective date January 1, 2025. And for the two new appointments, it would stipulate that one member of each party would be appointed for a 3-year term, so that they would get put back in the correct, I guess, numerical order. So, Madam Chair, I think this is ultimately a good idea. I feel like it's something that we could all get behind, and that's essentially the bill.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, anyone here to testify in favor of the bill? Please come forward.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, David Bailey, on behalf of the Voter Registrars Association of Virginia, I would say in particular to some of the newer members of this committee of the General Assembly, bills like this have been up before. They have had broad bipartisan support. One bill 1 year died in a committee of conference. The two chambers could not agree. One bill died 1 year because the governor vetoed the bill. We think this is, I think you've received a short memo from the registrars. I'm not going to read all they said, but we think this is a good government bill and would strongly encourage your support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Commissioner, good morning.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Susan Beals. I'm the Commissioner of Elections for the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I come in support of this legislation. The current State Board of Elections is comprised of former members of the House of Delegates and Virginia Senate, as well as former Electoral Board members from both sides of the aisle. Additionally, every member of the State Board of Elections currently represents a different congressional district throughout our Commonwealth. The State Board of Elections works very well together to set policy and certify voting systems and election results. The board members' on-the-ground experience in Virginia's elections as legislators, candidates, and election administrators is very valuable in informing their decisions as board members. I believe this group is most well-suited to pick the next Commissioner of Elections for Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room to speak in opposition? Okay, and online we have Joan Port.
Good morning again, Madam Chair. Joan Port, League of Women Voters of Virginia. We support this bill. This bill transfers the power to appoint or remove the Commissioner of Elections from the governor to this supermajority of the state board. If the state board continues to function in a bipartisan manner, the commissioner would be less vulnerable to partisan political influence. In the event of a partisan split, however, the top staff member of the Department of Elections would fulfill the responsibility until the commissioner, of the commissioner, until the board can act. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? So I did have a question. So I definitely understand the pro of this. It seems like it would depoliticize and get to a consensus candidate. And I've heard that this takes the governor out. And by taking the governor out, does this also now take out the General Assembly's role in confirming the governor's appointments?
Madam Chair, I think I would defer to council on that particular piece of it, because I'm looking up in section or in the first enactment of the bill, and it does list currently 9, starting with Executive Director of the Port Authority all the way down to Executive Director of the Board of Accountancy. This would add Commissioner of Elections of the Department of Elections. I don't think the General Assembly, am I correct?
Madam Chair, the General Assembly would still be responsible for confirming the Commissioner of Elections appointment made by the board, and would also still be responsible for confirming the governor's appointments to the board.
Thank you. And so then if we're working with consensus, I would ask the patron, and I think we've seen this based off a model somewhere else. If there wasn't the consensus, right, and then we would have the director take over, who hires the director?
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry, or whoever can answer the question.
Madam Chair, I believe the Commissioner of Elections hires the Director of Operations. But I see that crew, then they're nodding.
We just got a visual confirmation that that's the case. So then if I might just offer a comment, there's I understand what we're trying to get to. I just want to make sure that there's a way out of the loop if we're going to really get it out of those hands. If the governor right now chooses the commissioner and the commissioner hires the director, it doesn't seem that we've totally gotten it out of the hands of a potentially politicized kind of loop there. So just wanted to see if there were any comments or like, how do we get out of the loop?
Madam Chair, the current Director of Operations was hired by the previous commissioner and is a classified employee, and that carries over despite the new commissioner.
That director position?
It is not an appointed position. It's a classified position in state government. So the Director of Operations that I work with now was hired by my predecessor.
And, well, if I could ask. And with this having the delayed effective date, I wish no ill intent on the current director. This is a hypothetical question. But if that decision were to be changed and there was a new director, by the time that this delayed effective date went into place, you as the current situation, right, it would be the current governor appointed the current commissioner would have hired the new director, and then if there was no consensus, then that new director would be in this position.
That is true, but obviously we follow all of the DHRM requirements for hiring classified employees. It's not a political appointment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, the bill is properly before us.
Move to report. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House
Substitute
Bill.
motion, Madam Chair.
Delegate Converse Fowler.
I motion to carry this over to 2025 session.
Okay. The motion to carry over to 2025 on Rule 22 is a superior motion, and it has been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. House Bill 742 has been carried over. Thank you. Delegate O'Quinn, you have before us House Bill 682.
I do, Madam Chair. House Bill 682 is actually a charter bill, and I'll explain how I think it ended up over here.
Ooh, do tell.
It does essentially three primary things. It changes references from Personnel Department to Human Resources Department. It changes reference from fire inspector to fire official. How I think it ended up in P&E is that it affects voting precincts, and it will in fact take the city from 4 to 5 voting precincts. Bristol is one of the localities in Virginia that has their voting precincts enumerated in their charter. Whether that was a good idea or not is debatable, but here we are. And so there are representatives from the city who are here to speak to that, but essentially there's one precinct in the city that has gotten up over the 4,000 mark, and I think with the increase in registrations anticipated for this year, it could go well over the 4,000 mark, and that of course gets you into issues as it relates to the precinct size. So I would defer, and there may be others to speak for or against, but certainly there are representatives here from the city as well.
Okay.
And this is from a unanimous request from City Council.
Okay, and we will definitely hear public testimony in 1 second. Let's go to the committee first. I see Delegate Sickles.
I was just want to ask the patron, is this new precinct going to be in the casino?
All right, Delegate Sickles. So we will expeditiously move to public testimony. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the legislation? Come forward. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Randy Eads, the city manager and city attorney for Bristol, Virginia. I appreciate your time today for this bill. We do hope the casino increases more people in the city of Bristol, and it hopefully increases our revenue as well. So if you were here several sessions ago voting for the casino, I appreciate it. If you voted against it, I hope you will see that we will be good stewards of having a casino in our locality and making sure that we do it right, and Hard Rock is really doing well.
Well, that will go before general laws, but specific to this bill, did you have any comments?
Yes, we have one precinct right now that has 4,300 voters in that precinct. Our other 3 precincts have 2,800 voters in that precinct. As you know, once you get over 5,000 voters, you cannot have 5,000 voters in one precinct. And we typically have 800 to 1,000 people register in any presidential election cycle. So this bill would allow us to have a 5th precinct and lower the threshold that there may be a possibility that we would go over that 5,000. Plus, there's also the notice requirement. If more than 4,000 people are going to vote in any precinct, there has to be notice given to the locality's governing body. So we would appreciate your support for this bill to give us a 5th precinct in the city of Bristol.
Yeah. Any questions for this? Delegate Gilbert.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Question. Why don't y'all just put in a charter change to get rid of this out of your charter so you don't have to ask for permission?
We can do that as well. We have no problem. We have no problem doing that, and we can do it by ordinance.
I think Delegate O'Quinn said get your own bill, Delegate.
I mean,
No, Madam Chair, I would say that we can certainly discuss that. I don't think it's a bad idea, frankly, to get them out of there in case they need to be reworked in the future, so you don't have to come here for voting precinct change. But nevertheless, here we are, and I think this is the issue we're dealing with for this upcoming high-volume election.
Are you just trying to keep Delegate O'Quinn busy? We hear you. Okay, is there anyone here to, thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone here to speak in opposition? And I do believe we have Blakely Morris online. If you will unmute and give your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Blakely Morris. I'm the Director of Elections General Registrar for the City of Bristol. I think Mr. Eads and Delegate O'Quinn kind of covered everything we need for this bill, but I am available for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? So the bill is properly before us. It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 682. Seeing no further discussion, if the clerk will please open the rolls and members cast your votes. And that bill does report on a vote of 21 to 0 to 1. Thank you, Delegate O'Quinn. Delegate Cole, House Bill 440.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before you is HB 440, which is a modernization bill for candidate filing forms, petitions, and notifications. As we're moving into the future, and we are already utilizing electronic filings for our campaign finance, I've heard from numerous constituents and other candidates that there may be a better idea to move campaign filing forms online as well. This bill would allow, and it's simply a permissive bill. It does not mandate candidates moving forward file online. It just gives them permission to file their paperwork online, receive notifications when their paperwork is due, and also accept campaign signatures online as well when requesting to get ballot signatures, to move to have those online as well. And Madam Chair, let me just preemptively say that I am aware that ELECT is going through a reform right now, and during this budget season, it may be a little tough to get this one through, so I'm open to having some negotiations and carrying it over to 2025 if so need be.
You know, I really appreciate you, sir. And thank you for explaining your bill. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, is there anyone here to testify in favor of the bill that the patron already stated what the motion will probably be? Okay, we will give the brief opportunity for our two friends here online, going to Joan Port.
Good morning again. As a League of Women Voters of Virginia does support this bill, it provides for both electronic filing of required candidate filings and updated filing instructions for these people. The value is, of course, transparency and easy filing. So we do support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Breslaw?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is April Breslaw. I'm with the Virginia Grassroots Coalition. We're an alliance of over 55 grassroots groups representing about 15,000 voters across the state of Virginia. The coalition supports HB 440. As has been mentioned, it will modernize Virginia's election process in several important ways. It will help automate the process of gathering voter petition signatures. We believe this will not only save time and resources, it will increase public participation in government. And if enacted, the bill would also allow candidates to file necessary information through the electronic system. This would simplify and incorporate current technology into the process for citizens to become candidates for office. So we do support HB 440, and we hope whenever the appropriate time is that you will too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Delegate Cole, did you have any further information or final word?
That is it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that understanding, is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded to carry over House Bill 440 to 2025 session based on Rule 22. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And we do have three administrative items. We voted to take House Bill 176 by for the day and two related bills, 413 and 429 would also need to go by for the day, and I am requesting that House Bill 904 go by for the day. So we could do that in block if there was a motion to take those three.
So moved.
It has been moved and properly seconded to take House Bill 413, 429, and 904 by for the day. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And I do want to make an announcement. So it seems as if we either have or will be soon receiving the governor's appointments, but it was not in time for us to have a subcommittee meeting, and it needs to happen before our next full committee meeting. So you will hear an announcement and receive notification that we will have a called full committee meeting maybe Monday or Tuesday of next week. Immediately upon the adjournment, we will come back to this building, because this building is the one that has the rooms where our meetings can be live streamed and quickly handle those appointments. So please be on the lookout for that. If there's nothing further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and properly seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? We are now adjourned. Thank you and have a great day.